Most people expect a magic formula, but the truth is that everything starts with a simple principle. Change your mind, and everything else changes with it. Look at the example of an ordinary man. He wasn't a genius. He wasn't the son of entrepreneurs. He didn't have money saved up or attended the best colleges, but he did something that few do. He decided to learn the principles that govern the minds of rich people. For 5 years, he worked at Nightingale Conant, a company focused on personal development and mindset. He wasn't there just for a salary. He was there to absorb every teaching, every idea, every insight that could transform him. And you know what happened? He learned that wealth doesn't start in the bank account. It starts in the head. He had nothing, but he had the desire to understand what makes a poor person stay poor and what makes a rich person multiply what they have. And that was the turning point. You don't need to be the smartest, the fastest, or the most talented, but you need to be willing to learn what they never taught you in school: how to use your mind to create wealth. That was his starting point. It can be yours too. If you're ready to stop surviving and start building real wealth, stay with me. The next few minutes could be the most important of your life. Now listen to this carefully. Most people believe they need to accept life as it is, as if poverty were destiny, as if living counting coins, waiting for the next paycheck were something normal. But it's not. The first thing this man learned, and that completely changed the course of his life, was the following. You don't need to accept a reality that doesn't please you. You have the power to change it, and you know how? By using what almost no one teaches you to really use: your mind. We are all born with extraordinary mental faculties: imagination, perception, memory, intuition, will, reason. But we live as if we were hostages to the external world, as if what's outside us were stronger than what's inside. But what he discovered, and what you need to understand now, is that your mind can be trained to create the reality you want to live. If you continue thinking as you think today, you'll continue having what you have today. But if you change the way you see things, everything around you starts to change too. Change your thoughts, and your results change along. Change your perception, and your life changes. That's the foundation. It's the first step. And it's free. It's inside you. You just need to activate it. So do you want to continue on autopilot or start using your greatest asset, your mind? Your mind is your greatest asset, or your greatest liability. B. While most people face a problem and react with desperation, the rich do differently. They stop, analyze, and think strategically. And here's a powerful exercise. Simple but transformative. Take a sheet of paper. Write down the problem you're facing. It could be debt, low salary, lack of perspective. It doesn't matter. Put it all on paper. Now comes the breakthrough. Don't look at this problem like an ordinary person. Look at it like an investor, an entrepreneur, a solution creator. Ask yourself, how would Robert Kiyosaki see this situation? Would he say, I'm acting like an asset or like a liability? Is this problem really a barrier or a misinterpreted opportunity? You know why this works? Because when you change how you see the problem, you change the quality of the decisions you make. Kiyosaki teaches that the poor run from problems. The rich face problems as disguised doors to growth. They train the brain to find profitable solutions, not excuses. Most people want ready-made answers, but those who truly prosper are those who develop the ability to think like the rich. Stop looking at your challenges with the same mind that created them. Change the angle, change the question, change the result. Robert Kiyosaki often says, what separates the rich from the poor isn't money, it's how they use their mind. And here comes one of the most ignored tools of adult life: imagination. Yes, the same imagination you used as a child to create castles, play at being a pilot or millionaire. The difference? The rich continue using this imagination, only now to create assets, companies, investments, profitable idea. Meanwhile, most people use imagination only to predict tragedies that might never happen. What if I lose my job? What if the business doesn't work out? What if the money isn't enough? But what if you change the type of question? What if I created an income source that worked even while sleeping? What if I put my imagination at the service of my financial freedom? What if I acted like the owner of my life and not like a victim of it? Imagination is like a lens. It can amplify your fears or multiply your possibilities. Those who live trapped in the rat race, as Kiyosaki calls it, are always imagining the worst. But those who escape this mental prison start imagining what they want to build and not what they want to avoid. You don't get rich just with physical effort. You get rich when you first see wealth with the eyes of the mind. Visualize what you want. Feel as if it were already real. And then act every day like someone who is moving toward that scenario, because the real world always follows what was imagined with conviction. If you can't control your attention, you'll never control your money. Robert Kiyosaki repeats this in various forms in his books. For him, concentration is the silent secret of the rich. It's not how much you work, but how much you can keep focus on the right things. And here comes a practice that seems simple, but transforms lives, training your will and your concentration. In the classic method, they suggest something basic. Light a candle, stay in silence, stare fixedly at the flame for a few minutes every day. Simple as that. But what does this have to do with wealth? Everything. Because if you can't keep your attention on a flame for 60 seconds, how do you expect to maintain focus on creating a business or on learning about assets, investments, financial education? Kiyosaki talks a lot about mental discipline. The poor give up easily, change their mind all the time, jump from opportunity to opportunity, don't go deep, don't insist. The rich don't. The rich train the brain to focus, to have long-term vision, to say no to distractions and yes to objectives. Money goes where attention goes. If your mind is scattered, your bank account will be too. This candle practice is just the beginning. It's symbolic. It's training. But the real objective is for you to learn to control your mind like a muscle, because that's what will take you out of scarcity and put you on the path to financial freedom. Robert Kiyosaki insists on something almost no one talks about. Most people are rich in potential, but poor in practice. And when we talk about memory, we're talking about a mental power that's there inside you, but dormant. How many times have you said, "My memory is bad"? Well, know this, that's a lie. What you have is lack of training. There are people who can memorize entire books, complex formulas, entire business strategies, not because they were born with a special chip, but because they trained it. They saw memory not as a talent, but as an asset, a mental asset. Kiyosaki teaches that to get rich, you need to start accumulating assets inside your mind before trying to accumulate assets in the real world. And memory is part of that. Memorizing concepts about assets, liabilities, financial laws, investment strategies, money game rules, all of this gives you a competitive advantage that no one can take away from you. And you know what the secret is? Repetition, constant practice, commitment to your growth. Start small. Memorize one sentence per day, then a concept, then a model. Keep feeding your mind as if it were a muscle, because in the end, wealth doesn't just come from working more, it comes from knowing more. Knowledge not applied becomes dead weight, but knowledge memorized and practiced becomes power. That's what differentiates those who live on salary from those who build wealth. Robert Kiyosaki often says that life's most important decisions rarely come from formulas. They come from perception, sensitivity, and scenario reading. In other words, they come from intuition. While many believe that only numbers and logic matter, true investors and entrepreneurs know there's something beyond. That feeling that something is right or wrong, even when there's no concrete proof yet, that's intuition. It's not magic, it's built. It's the result of experiences, studies, observations, and sharpened perception. It's like an internal radar that warns you when to move forward or when to retreat. And you know what's most interesting? Common people ignore intuition. The rich don't. They listen to it, evaluate it, and often make millionaire decisions based on this silent signal. Kiyosaki doesn't talk about intuition in the spiritual field, but in the strategic field. The ability to sense when a business has potential, to perceive when someone is being sincere or trying to deceive you, to choose the right partner, the right moment, the right move. This sensitivity can be trained. The more you expose yourself to knowledge, the more references your mind accumulates. And the more references you have, the more refined your intuition becomes. And in the world of money, where opportunities arise and disappear quickly, intuition can be the difference between seizing a chance or watching it slip away. If you want to get out of scarcity and build freedom, learn to listen to your mind, not just with logic, but with perception, because many times what seems right on paper isn't right in practice. And that's where intuition comes in. Robert Kiyosaki always made something clear. The educational system was created to form good employees, not free thinkers. We were taught to memorize formulas, repeat answers, and obey orders, but we weren't taught to question, to reflect, to analyze. And that's one of the reasons why so many people live trapped in the rat race. The truth is harsh, but it needs to be said. Most people don't think, they just react. React to gas prices, react to the dollar's rise, react to the salary they receive, react to the fear of investing, but rarely stop to ask the most important question of all. Why do I continue living like this? Kiyosaki calls this emotional financial illiteracy. When the person feels something is wrong in their financial life, but doesn't know exactly what, because they never stopped to really think. Really thinking is what leads you to question what an asset is, what a liability is, why you work 8 hours a day and continue without reserves, and why some people manage to get rich even earning less than you. This ability, thinking with depth, with strategy, with purpose, is what separates those who live on salary from those who live on income. It's what transforms the fear of investing into curiosity. It's what transforms debt into learning. It's what transforms fixed salary into leverage to create assets. And here's an uncomfortable truth. As long as you continue thinking as you've thought until today, you'll continue having the same results. Rich people think differently. They don't ask, how much does this cost? They ask, how can I buy this using an asset? They don't say, this is risky. They ask, how can I understand and control this risk? Thinking is free, but few use it. And that's why many get paralyzed, waiting for an opportunity, a raise, an inheritance, when all they need is a different thought, a new point of view, a new question. If you want to change your financial reality, start thinking like an investor, like a builder, like an owner of your life, because those who don't think for themselves end up living the plans of those who do. You may not believe it now, but there are people who went from minimum wage with overdue bills, without a diploma or important contacts, and achieved financial freedom. And not because they won the lottery, but because they learned to use the mind as leverage. One of these examples is of a man who earned only $65 per month. That's right. With this amount, he needed to survive, pay bills, feed himself, and still dream of a better life. For most, this would be impossible, but he did what most don't do. He changed his mental state before trying to change his bank balance. Instead of complaining, he studied. Instead of victimizing himself, he observed the behavior of successful people. Instead of asking, why am I poor? He started asking, what do the rich do differently? And that's how, little by little, his mind stopped thinking like an employee and started thinking like an investor. He began to visualize clear goals, create assets, generate passive income. Get out of the rat race, build a life where money worked for him. Kiyosaki teaches that everything starts with visualization and mental attitude. You don't need to know all the steps, but you need to know where you want to go. This man had no idea how he would earn $1 million per year, but he decided that living with $65 was no longer acceptable. And this decision pushed him toward the right knowledge, the right opportunities, the correct actions. 5 years later, he had not only multiplied his income, he was earning more than $1 million per year. And all this without depending on luck, without inheritance, without shortcuts. It was his mind that changed first. Everything else just followed. When you change your mentality, you change your identity. And when your identity changes, your results change along. The money you earn today is a direct reflection of how you see yourself. If you want to change your bank statement, start by changing the way you think, act, and position yourself in the world. Robert Kiyosaki always reinforces an uncomfortable truth. Most people live trapped in small goals because they're afraid to think big. They don't realize that mediocre objectives produce mediocre results. But the problem isn't in the effort, it's in limited ambition. Many dream only of what seems possible. I want to get out of rent. I want to change cars. I want to save money to travel. All of this is valid, of course, but it's still within a comfort zone. Even when someone dares a little more, like opening a small business or buying a house, it's still something that fits within a traditional, predictable plan. What Robert calls a Type C objective is completely different. It's that objective you really desire with all your soul, but that at the moment seems impossible. It's so big it seems like madness. You don't know how you're going to achieve it. You don't have the resources, don't know the right people, don't have the money, nor the detailed plan. But you have one thing that few have: internal decision. You decide you're going to get there somehow, and this type of decision has enormous power. When you put an objective of this size on your horizon, your mind starts moving at a different frequency. You stop acting like someone who survives and start acting like someone who builds. Suddenly, you start perceiving opportunities you previously ignored. You meet people who are on the right path. You learn things that make sense with your new mentality. Not because magic happened, but because you changed your vibration. Kiyosaki explains that wealth isn't just about concrete actions, but about mentality aligned with a greater purpose. If you continue thinking small, you continue attracting small situations. But when you think big, even without knowing the path, you activate an inner force that makes you grow, seek, create, overcome. It's not about illusion or empty optimism. It's about vision, alignment, and continuous action. And maybe this is the most serious question you can ask today. What do I really want? And am I willing to grow to achieve it? Because if your objective doesn't challenge you, it won't transform you either. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need to be born into a rich family. And you also don't need to wait for a perfect opportunity. What you need is to awaken. Throughout this video, it became clear that getting rich and changing your life isn't just about working more. It's about thinking differently, about using the mind as an asset, about training your attention, your imagination, your discipline, about developing your intuition and breaking the mental pattern that keeps you trapped to salary, to fear, to mediocrity. Robert Kiyosaki teaches that it's not what you have in your pocket that defines your future. It's what you carry in your mind. And the biggest mistake someone can make is believing that their current situation is their final destiny. The good news: you can change, you can decide, you can choose the path of construction, of financial education, of owner mentality, but you need to act. Think, invest in yourself. Stop settling for little and start seeking what really matters. freedom. You are not limited by what you have, but by what you believe. The only real limitation is in the weakness of attention and the poverty of imagination. So now I ask you, are you going to continue surviving or finally start building the life you deserve? If this message made sense to you, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Here, we'll always bring content that helps you change your mentality, get out of the rat race, and start multiplying your knowledge, your income, and your results. See you in the next video. And remember, your greatest asset is your mind. Take good care of it.